Hey guys, YouTuber 100 here. Alright, and now as I start to review the X-Men movies, here's my review of the first X-Men movie. Before I start this review, and before I get into these X-Men reviews, just want to say something real fast. I'm, there's probably some of you out there that are wondering if I am going to be including Deadpool in these X-Men reviews. And my answer to that is no. I'm not going to be including Deadpool in these reviews. Wikipedia does have Deadpool listed as an X-Men movie, and yeah, it's shown in Deadpool that it does take place, like, it is set in the same universe as X-Men. And yeah, I mean, there are some X-Men characters. There's Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead in Deadpool, so yeah, it is shown that Deadpool does take place in the same universe as X-Men, but I just consider Deadpool to just be a separate movie series from X-Men. Like, I don't consider Deadpool like part of the X-Men movie series. So, yeah, Deadpool's not going to be included in these X-Men reviews. Just wanted to get that out there real quick. Alright, but anyway. Alright, so yeah, X-Men, this is a really, really, really good movie. Yeah, yeah, definitely did enjoy watching this. I mean, I've watched it several times before, and yeah, still do enjoy it just as much as I have before. This is just a very entertaining, enjoyable movie. Has great direction from Bryan Singer, who was also the director of Superman Returns. And also have great performances in this movie from Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry, Rebecca Romijn, is that how it's said? Ray Park, Anna Paquin, just, yeah, goes on and on. Just, yeah, really good performances with a really good cast for this movie. Yeah, they're all really good, and yeah, it's interesting, like, the setup for this movie. Like, Bryan Singer and a lot of these actors, going into this movie, they really did not know very much about X-Men, and they actually looked into it. They actually did study upon it. Like, they read the comics, watched the cartoons, actually looked into everything involving X-Men to actually learn about it. And yeah, they did it really well. Well, with this movie, I mean, just a really good, enjoyable film. I was about 6 when this movie was released, so yeah, I was kind of young to go see this movie in the theater, so yeah, I didn't. But yeah, I looked at it years later when I was kind of older, and I really did enjoy it. Just, yeah, really, really good movie. Yeah, like I said before, I liked X-Men more when, like, it was just a normal film trilogy, and they didn't, like, just stretch it out as much as they could with all these added movies in. I liked it, so yeah, I liked it better during this time. I mean, yeah, and it's a really enjoyable movie. I mean, Ian McKellen is just great as Magneto. Yeah, and I do like how in this movie it's not like just Magneto is the only villain and the X Men are all just going after him. Like, Magneto actually does have allies in this movie. He has Sabretooth and Mystique and Toad. So I do like how Magneto is not the only villain in this movie, and he basically has reinforcements for him. Um, so yeah, that was a really good idea to do it like that instead of just making him the only villain and all the X Men are targeting him. And yeah, that's done really well. So, and it's a good struggle, I think, that the characters go through, like with Wolverine and how he's really being haunted by his past and what goes on with Rogue. And yeah, I just think that the struggles and conflicts in this movie are done really well. And yeah, just a really entertaining movie from start to finish, really. I mean, I can't really find too much to complain about here. I mean, yeah, just yeah, the movie is done really well, and yeah, this was definitely a solid start for X-Men in terms of their movies. And yeah, I would give this movie probably 3.5 stars out of 4. I mean, yeah, just a really enjoyable movie, really enjoyable characters. Just yeah, the movie is just really enjoyable. Can't say that enough. All right, so yeah, let me just get right into it. So the movie opens in the year 1944, or in Poland, and Eric Lencher, who's 13 years old at this point, he gets separated from his parents after they are entering a concentration camp. And as Eric is trying to reach out to them, showing that he's causing some metal gates to actually bend towards him, and yeah, showing that Eric is actually is attracted with a magnetic force, but then the guards eventually knock him out. And then, as the movie says, in the not too distant future, shown in Mississippi, there's 17-year-old Mary Deanna Canto, I think I'm saying that right, aka Rogue. Yeah. Yeah, and after she kisses her boyfriend, and it ends up like knocking him into a coma. And yeah, this is shown that Rogue's power is like she can absorb the life force or send the mutant abilities of anybody that she ends up touching. And it's also shown that Robert Kelly, a U.S. senator, is trying to pass a mutant registration act in Congress, which would force every mutant to actually reveal their identities and abilities publicly. And it shows Eric, who is now fully grown, and he now has the name Magneto, and Professor Charles Xavier, played by Patrick Stewart, and yeah, the two of them tried to discuss their differing views on the relationship between humans and mutants, and then Magneto then just ends up leaving. Then Rogue then decides to run away to Laughlin, Alberta. And while she's at a bar, she then meets Logan, aka Wolverine. And yeah, he has. Yeah. Yeah, his superhuman abilities are to heal himself, and he also has heightened senses, and of course, his metal knife from his knuckles. Now, and at one point, as Rogue is actually sitting beside Wolverine, he then senses one guy that's trying to hold a knife to him, and then he just corners the guy with his knife right at its throat. And then there's another guy that holds a gun right up to his head. And then Wolverine just cuts the barrel of the gun, and then has his other knives from his other hand pointed at that guy too. And then Wolverine eventually leaves, and he brings Rogue along with her. It was funny. At one point, as they were on the road, Rogue tried to tell Wolverine to put his seatbelt on, and it turned out like they ended up bumping, and Wolverine fell right through the windshield of his truck. And then there was a propane tank in the truck that was starting to catch fire and set the truck on fire, and she ended up being stuck in, and Wolverine tried to save her, but then he ended up being attacked by Sabretooth, who was a mutant that was allied with Magneto. Yeah, and Sabretooth ended up knocking Wolverine out, but then Cyclops and Storm then showed up and they saved Wolverine and Rogue from Sabretooth. And yeah, they were able to free Rogue from the truck and bring the unconscious Wolverine along with them, and yeah, they were able to get them out just as the truck exploded. And, and, and then and then it showed Wolverine being like medically attended to by Jean Grey in the X Mansion in Westchester, New York. Yeah, Wolverine then just woke up and he he then like ambushed Jean Grey and was just yeah, he was just scoping around the mansion, and then he eventually came across Professor Xavier, and he then officially then met Cyclops, Storm, and Jean Grey. And then Professor Xavier was just telling Wolverine and about why he's there, and telling him about Magneto and Sabretooth, and just yeah, he kind of gave them just like a history about X-Men, and yeah, he also brought up to Wolverine just his days of like when he actually received all of his powers, and yeah, it turns out that he's actually haunted by that. Yeah, but yeah, we really didn't learn much about how he really did become it and why this really haunts him until like the Wolverine Origins movie that nearly a decade later. And yeah, it's shown Rogue is also there, and she's taking some classes where she also like has a small bond with another one of the students, Bobby Drake, aka Iceman. And then yeah, Jean Grey and Professor Xavier, they eventually learn about the metal that's actually flowed throughout Wolverine's entire body, and they're not able to actually pinpoint his actual age, and he could actually be older than Professor Xavier. And then it showed Senator Kelly, he, he, and he ended up being abducted in a helicopter by Toad and Mystique. Yeah, yeah, Mystique was actually posing as like another one of Senator Kelly's people. Well, because yeah, Mystique's power is obviously shape shifting, and yeah, she ends up knocking Senator Kelly out after kicking him in the face several times. And then they bring him back to Magneto's lair, and then Magneto uses Senator Kelly as a subject for his machine that induces a mutation. And then it ends up turning Senator Kelly into a mutant of his own, and his mutant powers are kind of like he can, stretch out, and he's basically elastic, kind of similar to Mr. Fantastic and the Fantastic Four. And yeah, while that's going on that night, Wolverine is also having a nightmare about when he actually received all of his powers, and Rogue tries to go to check on him. And then, yeah, Wolverine then just wakes up and he accidentally stabs Mystique, which also results in. Wait, did I say Mystique? Sorry. He ends up stabbing Rogue. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, and then. Yeah, that also leads to Rogue touching Wolverine, and her powers also like affect him. And then Senator Kelly is eventually able to escape his imprisonment from Magneto. Oh, and later on Bobby supposedly, yeah, supposedly Bobby tells Rogue that Professor Xavier is really pissed off at her for what she did to Wolverine, and he convinces her to actually leave the school. And then it shows that it's actually Mystique posing as Bobby. And after Professor Xavier learns about Rogue running away, he then uses his locating machine, Cerebro, to locate her. And he finds that Rogue is actually at a train station. And yeah, Wolverine wants to go after her, but yeah, Professor Xavier feels that Magneto is after Wolverine, and he doesn't want Wolverine to actually go because it'll just be part of Magneto's plan. And he tries to send Cyclops and Storm to go after Rogue, but then Wolverine ends up taking Cyclops' motorcycle and takes off at the train station. And then Wolverine then finds Rogue on a train, and he talks to her and convinces her to actually stay with Professor Xavier. And all that's going on, Cyclops and Storm are also searching for her in the train station, and they end up being ambushed by Sabretooth and Toad, and Magneto ends up busting into the train. Wolverine tries to protect Rogue, okay, fight Magneto. But because of Magneto's powers, he was able to just control Wolverine and what he does. And then, yeah, he just lifted Wolverine up into the air. And then Magneto actually revealed it's Rogue that he's really after. And then he threw Wolverine back, knocking him out. And then he knocked out Rogue with the syringe. Yeah, and then, yeah, Magneto, Toad, and Sabretooth then escaped with Rogue. And eventually Senator Kelly arrived at Professor Xavier's school. But due to uh, him not being able to stabilize his mutation, he ends up dying. And that ends up causing him to just break down and turn into a puddle of water. And I should also point out also that Mystique was then roaming around the X Mansion, still posing as Bobby, and she was able to get into the Cerebro room where Professor Xavier uses it, and she ended up sabotaging the machine. And, yeah, the X-Men also learned Magneto has also been severely weakened after he tested the machine out on Senator Kelly. And that his intent is to actually use Rogue's power, or to transfer the powers to her, so she can be able to actually power the machine for him, which will end up killing her. And Professor Xavier tried to once again use the Cerebro to find Rogue, but due to Mystique's sabotage, it just poisoned his brain or something, and it caused him to fall into a coma. And eventually Jean Grey used her telekinesis power to fix the machine. And she discovered her Magneto's intent was to place the mutation-inducing machine on the Liberty Island and mutate leaders of the World Leaders Meeting for a summit on Ellis Island nearby. So then Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey and Storm all then and went to the Statue of Liberty, and they tried to find Magneto and Rogue. Oh, and then Wolverine ended up doing battle with Mystique as she was posing as him, while the Cyclops, Storm, and Jean Grey did battle with Toad. Oh, no. And eventually Storm ended up electrocuting Toad and threw him into the water. And then Mystique tried to pose as Storm, and tried to tell Wolverine they need to regroup. Then Wolverine just stabbed her and told her she's not part of the group. Yeah. But then Magneto ended up apprehending all four of them, and then he had Sabretooth watch over them. And Magneto ended up transferring his powers over to Rogue and then had her use the powers to start the machine. And then Wolverine eventually broke free and fought with Sabretooth. And then, with the help of Cyclops and Jean Grey, Sabretooth then ended up falling off of the Statue of Liberty. And then Storm and Jean Grey combined both of their powers to lift Wolverine up to Magneto's machine. And yeah, as he was trying to save Rogue, Magneto tried to prevent it from happening, but then Cyclops ended up blasting Magneto and the machine, destroying it and knocking Magneto out. And with Rogue dying, Wolverine then touched Rogue. And yeah, he transferred over his healing abilities to her, which allowed her to recover. But at the same time, it's like Wolverine lost his healing powers or something. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but yeah, it ended up like having him pass out. Then eventually Professor Xavier then awakened from his coma, where it's showing that Wolverine is also being medically attended right beside him, and he eventually also recovers. And yeah, Jean Grey is telling him that it was really brave what he did, and yeah, Wolverine then just said that she could tell Rogue that his heart belonged to somebody else, and which of course is Jean Grey. And later on, Professor Xavier also informs Wolverine that near the place where he was actually found in Canada is also an abandoned military base that could actually contain information about his past. And Wolverine then takes off to learn more about that. As the X-Men also learn that Mystique is also still alive, and she's the now impersonating Senator Kelly. And then the movie ended with Professor Xavier visiting Magneto in a plastic prison cell, plastic constructed prison cell. And yeah, Magneto told Professor Xavier that he can't be imprisoned there forever, and that he will continue to fight. And Professor Xavier just told him that the X-Men will always be there to stop him. And then that's how the movie ended. So, yeah, 3.5 stars out of 4. Like I said, really entertaining movie. I mean, just, a good plot, good character development, good direction. Just, yeah, a really entertaining and enjoyable movie. And yeah, as I said, definitely a solid start to the X-Men movies. Alright, so that does it for my review of X-Men. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.